Do you ever catch yourself acting irritable or harsh or snappy all the time for no apparent reason? Always rushing your kids along without really knowing why? Talking fast, walking fast, or driving fast, and you're not even late for anything? That was me for years. I lived in a constant state of urgency, always multitasking, always frantic, always overwhelmed and irritable about something. Until one day I realized I wasn't just stressed, I was burnt out. I knew I needed a break, but I was at the point where no amount of free time would be enough. I needed healing. Sometimes we stay in this frantic, irritable state, not because we actually are upset about anything, but because we've emotionally committed to the role. The longer we act irritable, distant, harsh, frantic, the more momentum it gains, and stopping suddenly feels jarring or even vulnerable. Rather than face the discomfort of inconsistency or admit, hey, maybe I didn't need to respond that way, we double down to protect our pride. Over time, that repeated emotional posture gets internalized. We stop seeing it as a temporary state and we start believing this is just who I am. And the tragedy is, we don't even realize we've been performing and that's not actually who we are. We just forget how to stop. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly how I began to change and actually heal from burnout as a Christian mother. Everything from healing my nervous system to rewiring my brain on certain topics that were leading to the burnout to breaking free from perfectionism and hurry sickness. I truly believe that burnout is one of Satan's favorite tools for stealing a mother's joy. It robs our energy, blinds us to beauty, and convinces us that we're failing. And this term has become normalized, mom burnout, to the point where moms are just accepting it as like a rite of passage, and that needs to change. With the Lord's infinite mercy, you can escape survival mode. I know this because I lived it and I overcame it as well. I've come out the other side where I've experienced joy and peace, even though my circumstances didn't change. If you are a Christian mother who is feeling burnt out and longing to be the joyful mother and wife you've always imagined without turning to expensive therapy or supplements or constantly decluttering your home, I'd love for you to subscribe. You don't have to stay stuck in survival mode. And if you're new here, I'm Kiri and I help Christian homemakers who are living in a fog of exhaustion and stress to become the patient, peaceful mother and wife they've always dreamed of being. And if you're wondering how I went from barely surviving each day to creating a peaceful, joyful home, I actually walked through that exact process that I followed in my free workshop. So you can watch that anytime, just click the link below. Frantic isn't your true nature. It's just what you've rehearsed for far too long. Sometimes we confuse the pace that we've maintained with the person that we've become, but constantly rushed and snappy and tense, that's not who you are. It's just who you've practiced. And the good news is that you can practice something new. I used to do everything at warp speed, and I actually used to pride myself on my ability to get so much done in a day. I was constantly breaking things though, and I was rushing my kids to go, go, go at my pace. And now I've slowed way down. I get less done in a day, but I feel so much more at peace. And there's a term for this chronic sense of urgency. It's called hurry sickness. And while it's not a medical diagnosis, it's very real. It's that sense of always being behind, always rushing, always carrying urgency in your chest, even when there's no need. And that's not from God. I once heard someone say, you can either rush with Satan or walk with God. God is methodical. He doesn't rush. Satan is a taskmaster, and he wants nothing more than to see moms hurrying their children out the door, missing connection and discipleship, and all of that is so far from the peace that the Lord offers. So if you feel that looming pressure to just go faster, consider the recognition of that as a little nudge from God saying to slow down. That recognition, though, will come at shockingly inconvenient times, I would know. Like when you're running late for something important and you've spent the whole morning rushing your children along in a frantic state, and suddenly it dawns on you, you've been acting like a basket case all morning. It's as if the frantic energy has taken on a life of its own. Not because it's who you are, but because it's a pattern you've rehearsed for so long. And if you don't interrupt that pattern, it starts to become your default. So, when you become made aware of that frantic energy, make the vulnerable decision to put down that character and let it be abrupt. Let it be weird, because I know that's how it is. I know you're like, okay, well, I can't just stop acting this way now because that would be weird. Let it be weird. Your family might say something, and that's totally fine. Just apologize and move on. Remind yourself, this isn't who I am. This is just who I've practiced being, and I can practice something new. So if hurry sickness is the fuel behind our frantic living, then perfectionism is the engine that keeps it running. And the deeper you trace it, the more you'll realize it's not just about clean counters or matching outfits. It's about something far more dangerous. The lie of perfectionism leads to burnout. Do you tend to hold yourself and others to excessively high standards? This trait can make you capable and dependable, but it can also leave you anxious, irritable, and disconnected. Perfectionism often begins as a survival mechanism, especially for those who've lived through immense childhood trauma. And while it may have once served a purpose in your life, it no longer serves you. Perfectionists, they tend to struggle to feel joy. And I can say this because I used to be one. We can't relax. We redo what others have helped us with. We think that if I want anything done right, I have to do it myself. But God never asked us to be perfect. He actually sent his son to be perfect in our place so that we could walk in grace, not performance. Perfectionism can also be a sign of pride, leading us to think that the blessings in our life are as a result of our own doing versus attributing the cause of the blessings to the Lord. So why do we so often fall into this trap of thinking that in order for our work to be seen as good and beautiful, things have to be perfect, or at least they have to be done our way? What if God sees the mess, the toys everywhere, the half-finished laundry, the tough chicken, and the undercooked beans as beautiful? What if connecting with your husband emotionally, laughing at the chaos, and taking time to disciple your children is actually the goal? Life is so much sweeter when we let go of the little things, let the unimportant things fall by the wayside, and realize that there's a season for having a perfect home, or the perfect fitness routine, or the perfect diet. Philippians 4:8 says, "Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable. If there is any excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things." But this can be so difficult when you're living in this state of destructive perfectionism, can't it? So, just for grins, let's see if we can put the next few tips into practice this week and see how it blesses our lives. First, you can exercise the muscle of allowing others to help you. Resist the temptation to correct the job that they do, and then just understand that if something isn't done right, the repercussions probably aren't worse than the repercussions of a perfectionistic mindset. Okay, next, you can use your perfectionism actually to your advantage and get really perfectionistic about self-care. And choose self-care activities that aren't secretly productive either, because I've fallen into that trap. These are things that actually bring you joy, like eating dark chocolate while reading a book for pleasure. Work several of these types of activities into your day. And if you can't possibly do this, then your days are probably too packed with tasks that are enabling your perfectionism. Next, you need to start attributing your success to the one who actually provides. That's Christ. This is both freeing and empowering for us. Remembering who your provider is will free you from the bondage of perfectionism, and he also empowers you to give yourself rest. Lastly, we slow down. Focus on the simple joys like hot coffee with your husband on a slow Saturday morning, or a hilarious conversation with your toddler, or a sweet moment with your infant, or maybe the children playing while dinner's in the oven and enjoying a quiet moment before your husband gets home. Because it turns out that by fixating on these simple joys in life, you have less time to stress about the mud and the mess and the mayhem. This isn't about becoming lazy, it's about giving yourself grace. So maybe you've made lots of changes lately. You've decluttered your home, you've started waking up earlier so you can get quiet time in, you've tried new routines, you've put in the effort, and maybe you've felt a flicker of hope. But if you're still wondering why your mornings feel rushed, why your tone still comes out sharp, why your evenings carry that heavy weight of guilt for how you've responded to your family, and you feel stuck in the endless cycle of just barely surviving the day, wondering if true change is even possible for you, then you need more than just tips and tricks. You need a system, a way to actually rewire how you think and respond, one that doesn't rely on your willpower or energy, but it anchors you so deeply that even the toughest days can't steal your peace. That's exactly what I teach in my free workshop. We meet you where you are, and then we move forward together. So you can use the link below to sign up and start your journey. When I first realized that my nervous system was stuck in a state of fight or flight, it changed everything. I thought that I was just stressed or tired, but the truth was deeper. My body was in a constant state of fight or flight. So how do you begin to heal a nervous system that's stuck in chronic stress? First, you have to start by noticing your body. Pay attention to the tension in your neck, shoulders, or chest, and recognize the racing thoughts or the impulse to snap at minor things. Next, introduce small intentional moments of calm. This might be any number of tools that tell your nervous system you're safe. You don't need to freak out. My workshop that I mentioned before addresses my favorite tools for this. But finally, you have to change the way you talk to your body, talk about your life and the situations that happen, and you need to rewire your brain by renewing your mind. Healing isn't a one-time fix. It's daily choices and mindsets that help your body learn peace again. Over time, these small shifts will rewire your brain's responses to stress. And as you calm your nervous system, everything else flows. Your patience will grow, your joy will return, and your home fills with a peace that will last. This is the foundation of the system that I walk through in my free workshop, because without this healing, no strategy or schedule will last. So let's address those mindsets. Maybe these are the lies that you're repeating to yourself without even realizing it, because if your body is stuck in fight or flight, chances are your mind is too. And until that changes, peace will always feel like a distant reality. So first, we have to reframe your role. You're not just serving your family, you're serving the Lord. Burnout takes root when we lose sight of that. When your husband feels distant, when your children are testing every ounce of patience that you have, and yet you're still called to show up with love. The only thing that will sustain you is remembering who you're really doing this for. You're not just folding laundry or settling sibling squabbles. You are offering your life as worship, and that changes everything. Colossians 3:23 reminds us to work heartily as for the Lord and not for men. Sometimes when we're serving our family, it's easy to fall into the trap of keeping rank, thinking about who works harder or deserves more recognition. But when you operate from the mindset that everything you do is ultimately for Christ, not humans, it frees you from comparison and makes sacrificial service joyful. So what you did versus what your husband did is no longer the point. What he said to you that upset you is no longer the point. What your children are doing to irritate you is no longer the point, because everything you do is for Christ. The next mindset you should adopt is to always be a blessing. Always be thinking, how can I be a blessing to my family today, even if they don't deserve it? This mindset turns your home into a place of overflowing grace instead of transactional relationships. So one practical habit that I like to have is to keep a running list of small ways to bless each family member. You can call it a blessing list, whatever you want, but put all the names of your family members on this list and then just little relevant ways that you can bless each one of them. For example, maybe it's music playing when your husband comes home from work, or freshly baked cookies on a random Tuesday for your toddler. Proverbs 11:25 says, "Whoever brings blessing will be enriched, and one who waters will himself be watered." The next mindset to adopt is that homemaking is your career. As someone who came from the corporate world, I like to approach homemaking like the career that I've trained my whole life for, with intentionality, ambition, and a heart to grow. Set your goals for your home just like you would in an office. Be ambitious about your family's culture. Get dressed in the morning as if you're showing up to lead something that matters, because you are. And if you're a working mother, whether part-time or full-time, this still applies. Your job outside the home doesn't disqualify you from being the keeper of your home. In fact, it makes your intentionality all the more vital. How can you carry the heart of your home into the world with you? How can your work ethic, your attitude, your priorities, your conversations reflect the values you're cultivating behind the scenes at your own house? Representing your family and your faith well doesn't mean performing or pretending. It means walking in integrity and stewarding your time and energy wisely. You may not have as many hours at home as you'd like, but the hours you do have can still be full of peace, order, and love. Your leadership in the home matters. So surround yourself too with women who see the eternal value in this work, because it is work, kingdom work. That's actually how I opened my whole course, because this mindset right here lays the foundation for everything that follows. In the first couple modules, I walk you through creating a clear vision for your home, your motherhood, and the kind of woman that you want to become. You'll rediscover those unique qualities, the ones that you used to love about yourself and the ones that your husband fell in love with. And you'll start to build a family culture that you can be proud of, one your children will carry with them for the rest of their lives, remembering what home was like. Which brings me to one final mindset shift that will shape everything: how you choose to show up in the little moments, the ones that seem meaningless but actually become your children's memories. After the noise quiets, the toys are packed away, and the bedtime stories fade into memory, what will remain is the atmosphere you cultivated, the invisible warmth that wrapped around their earliest years like their favorite blanket. So we zoom out. The way you manage stress and discipline today becomes the story your children tell about their childhood. Will they remember joy and discipleship, or stress and frustration? When you're tempted to lash out or spiral, take a moment. Picture your child 20 years from now. What do you want them to remember about today? That little practice keeps my heart soft, my tone gentle, and my eyes fixed on the bigger picture. So you can heal from burnout. You can build a peaceful, joyful home even without changing your circumstances. And if you'd like a catalyst for this kind of transformation, I walk through it all inside my free workshop. So the link is in the description below. It's always such a joy to have you here. And if you'd like to know about the single biggest temptation that keeps women in survival mode, watch this next video.